In the earlier video, a professor. He re-examined. He questioned the old experiments, doubting the experiment where they locked a mouse in a tiny cage and gave it to types of drugs. And he also questioned the perspective on addiction. Heroin is the most addictive substance. You're addicted to things like cigarettes, online games. Eating to the point of obesity is a form of addiction. Going to parties. If you can't go a week without going to parties and drinking, and can't stand staying at home, that's an addiction, and we have countless bad habits, all stemming from addiction. Any bad habit that keeps repeating and can't be fixed, that's a form of addiction. So through this video, we realize one thing to fix bad habits. It seems that person has weak connections. In fact, there's a very special connection that this video doesn't recognize. It's the connection with oneself. Does that friend truly understand themselves? If they don't understand themselves, then they tend to cling to external objects. And when clinging to external objects without wisdom, they cling to the wrong things. Clinging to the wrong things instead of clinging to what's good and beautiful, that create temporary satisfaction. Heroin is something that creates temporary satisfaction. Inject it and feel good for 15 minutes, then suffer for life. Cigarettes are the same, clinging to it for the 5-minute pleasure of smoking. Then a few years later, addicted for life. So if you dive deeper into this video, you can analyze many sharper insights. That's right, the 10-year process of creating a video like that has helped him become a doctor of psychology. Here he has some very good quotes. Choose a spacious home. Or choose friends. Friends are connections. Then we catch the addicts and throw them in jail. People with bad habits. Stealing is just a bad habit. We throw them in jail, a literal cage. So when locked them up in that cage, what do you think arises in their minds? Does discomfort arise? Or does comfort and generosity arise? Discomfort, if you lock them up for 3 years, then release them after serving their sentence. Does this discomfort remain or disappear? It accumulates and increases. It accumulates deep inside. It's called internal knotting and accumulation. Out in the world, if someone triggers that exact issue, it erupts again, springing up suddenly, and then they commit crimes again. Once I visited a prison in Dong Nai. After sharing with the prisoners, went up to the director's office, sat and talked with the prison director. I asked him, because I knew this statistic from many prisons, I asked him, at his prison, after 5 years, how many people return to prison? He releases them, then after 5 years they return. They commit crimes again in the area of his province, so they get herded back into his prison. Where else would they go? So he said after 5 years. Here we have statistics showing 97% return to prison. The remaining 3%, whether they reform or die, unknown. You see, looking into this, we realize that prisons around the world are useless now. See, can't solve the problem. The word prison translates to reform camp. The word reform sounds great. Reform means to change and improve. Create means to build, meaning we have to change them, and we have to build a new personality for them. Only then is it worthy of being called reform. So reform is a very profound education. Only then can it make a change. Only then can it build a new person. They enter the prison. They come out after 3 years as a new person. Only then can they contribute to life. Only then can they bring value to themselves. Otherwise, they go back to stealing and prostitution again. But how many prison directors truly worry about this? Only a few. So why don't we worry about it? Because we lack doubt, We lack skepticism. We just believe prisons around the world are like that, so doing it like this is enough. Some things exist for thousands of years, still wrong as usual. So right view is very important. Right view is looking deeply. A multidimensional view, and it breaks the stereotypes of thousands of years. If you can recognize that, then immediately you become a very special prison. You will find ways to bring education into the prison. By all means to transform. So do we live our 70-year life to make money? Or live 70 years to truly be a journey of self-development? Which one is right? Even when we die, it must also be self-development. It's also a big lesson. So life is a very big school. Life is not a journey to make money, as we think. A person who develops themselves to a moderate degree, we call that person on the right path. That person knows how to develop themselves, knows how to contribute. But a person who goes into the depth of consciousness develops, but has the depth of their own consciousness within it, understands the principles of consciousness, how to harmonize with the universe. Then life is not only a school, but life is a spiritual journey. It rises to another level. It's harder, but it's much better. When you see life as a spiritual journey, then you see the meaning of life much more easily. But if life is just a school, sometimes you don't see it. And if life is just a series of making money and to affirm your success, then we never touch the meaning of life, standing outside the door forever. Even billionaires still stand outside the door. So if we need to connect, why do we need to connect with the outside? Because somewhere our inside is weak, right? If your inner self is strong, you don't need to connect much with the outside. That's why when you look at enlightened masters, the enlightened sages in the past, did they stay in the city to connect, or did they go into the forest to live alone? Which one is more common? If you want to find an enlightened master, what do you want? To find a sage, you have to go to the mountains, go to the forest to find them. What else you read? Every country has such stories. None of them are in the city. That's why the Buddha spent 6 years in the forest. After they are in there, they finish everything, they finish training. Then they step out into the world to guide the world. But there are people who feel they are not done. They still stay in there, but even if they are not done, they are already much better than us. So when we seek a master to learn the way, usually we have to go to the mountains, go to the hills. Only then can we seek a master to learn the way. So through those enlightened sages, we again see a critique of the video from earlier. What is connection? It seems those people don't connect. But they connect with themselves, and they connect with nature, the universe. These two connections are enough. No need to connect with too many people. Now we are not that type, right? We sit here, living in the middle of Saigon, crowded like the Yuan army. We are not the type to go into the forest to cultivate, right? So we need to connect in life. So, what connection is the most precious? What connection is the deepest? What connection is a treasure? Whoever finds that. This slide just says this, but it took me 5 years. You should look for the Bible on Google and search for living environment, or what are the necessary connections for a person. You try searching. It's not written in there. If it is written, it only writes about connecting with God. You try to research about Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching. You search to see what our connection is. You just search all of them. You just go and search all of them to see the living environment. The living environment is the connection. Whatever environment you live in, you connect with that object. Live somewhere, connect there. What else? You live in Vietnam, you connect with Vietnam. So whatever environment we are born in, we connect with that environment. So what is the ideal living environment? Then luckily there is one person who says. I only see one person saying it, the rest say things not worth mentioning, saying scattered things for fun. That we have three objects for us to build our connection with. There are many objects, but if there are too many objects, you will be confused. TCLA Keng Bitkatingi Vijaya Cho Quantring. So the three most important objects that must be connected with are outside of ourselves,